right, we're stepping away from the keel project this week. We are just a couple weeks away from pouring lead. This week, all that's happening is a whole bunch of welding. Bill is getting a whole bunch of welding done. So we'll get back to that next week. It's getting very exciting. For now, I get to get back on the boat, work on some very interesting engineering projects that have come up with the ballast water tank system. But first, a very quick review of the ballast tank system.
These were the original ballast tanks. There were 3 on each side, plus 1 in the bow. One side of the boat held about 3.4 metric tons or 900 gallons of seawater when fully filled. Here's how it worked. The tanks were filled by an intake on the leading edge of the keel when the boat was going fast. When the boat heels from the force of the wind on the sails, on most sailboats, the keel, which weighs 5 tons on Duracell, counteracts the heeling force to keep the boat upright. Duracell was designed to race in the southern oceans where conditions are very windy. So, as Breeze built, a ballast tank could be filled to supplement the keel and help keep the boat upright against the wind. Now, we will not be using the boat in the same way. We're turning this race boat into a cruiser and will sail in less heavy winds, generally speaking. But we do need freshwater storage on board for drinking, so 2 years ago we cut down the ballast tanks to a third of their original size in order to use them as freshwater storage and open up space to build an interior. Now, rather than 900 gallons per side, we can carry 300 gallons per side and only fill them halfway with fresh, potable water. We will still use them as ballast.
Now we have another fun plumbing puzzle. We plumbed the 2 freshwater ballast tanks together. How it works is there's a valve connecting the 2 tanks together on either side of the boat, and before we tack, we're gonna open the valve and the water's gonna fall down to the leeward side. We'll close the valve, tack the boat, and then the water will be on the high side, thereby creating ballast. One thing that I don't want to happen is for the vents in the tanks to be too small such that they restrict the flow between the tanks through the pipe that connects the 2 tanks together. I didn't know how big the vent should be. And actually I'm going to install 4 small vents because there's kind of 4 chambers in the tanks. And so Somerset is here and he's been helping me figure out a small experiment where this is a rough experiment. Like Somerset said, we're turning the comments off for this part of the video.
Why are you turning the comments off?
Why? Well, because I'm sure that my experiment will be nitpicked to smithereens, but this is giving us a rough idea of how big the vents need to be for water to flow freely between the 2 tanks. We've got 5-gallon buckets. They're connected by a 1-inch diameter pipe. This tank has a small leak in it. No big deal. We've been drilling holes in the tanks to see at what point the water falls from one side to the other. How do I say this?
Timing it?
Yeah, we're timing it so that, and I'm gonna start over right there.
Counting the water.
We're counting it. Exactly.
I think a diagram will help here. To put it most succinctly, we want to move all the water from the high side to the low side as quickly as possible before we tack. Vents that are too small would restrict the water from moving by creating vacuum, so I want to make sure that the vents I'm installing are big enough without getting so big that they become really expensive or too big to fit into small compartments. Each tank has 4 chambers that need to be vented individually because when the boat heels, the chambers become isolated from each other by the nature of their shape and where the baffles are located inside each tank. So I need to install 4 vents per tank, 1 per chamber, and the total area of all the vents needs to be large enough to not restrict the movement of water.
On very rare occasions, I do like to leave the boat shed and venture out into the wild. When I do, and when I need an internet connection, I use CyberGhost. When I connect to public Wi-Fi, CyberGhost VPN gives me confidence that no one will steal our information. CyberGhost VPN encrypts your information and protects you while you browse the internet safely. With over 38 million users worldwide, CyberGhost VPN is one of the most recommended services on the market. It also has an excellent rating on Trustpilot, which proves the satisfaction of its users. A VPN is essential to protect your digital privacy. Your internet provider, public Wi-Fi, or even websites can track what you do online, but with CyberGhost VPN, all your traffic gets encrypted and your IP is hidden, keeping you completely anonymous. Plus, CyberGhost VPN lets you unblock exclusive content from platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and more in other countries. Change your virtual location in a couple of clicks and enjoy the US catalog or any library that's not available in your region. It works on all major devices and operating systems, and you can protect up to 7 devices at the same time. Perfect for sharing with friends and family. CyberGhost has a special deal for our viewers. They're offering a 45-day money-back guarantee along with an 83% discount and 4 months free if you use the link in the description. This is an opportunity to protect your privacy and enjoy unlimited content. Click the link in the description and start browsing safely with CyberGhost VPN. Phew, back to the boat shed. We're measuring this by drilling small vent holes in each tank, and those vents we're determining them by it's a percentage of the cross-sectional area of the pipe between the 2 tanks.
For example, the cross-sectional area of a 1/2-inch diameter pipe is 25% of the cross-sectional area of a 1-inch pipe. So we're determining at what percentage of the transfer pipe does the vent pipe not restrict the flow of water.
And so we started with a 3/16 hole, which is only 3.5% of the cross-sectional area of the pipe between the 2 tanks, which is a 1-inch pipe. We're timing the water as it falls from this tank to that one. Well, then we'll empty the water, fill this one back up again, increase the vent size, and as the time gets shorter and shorter, it'll become it'll reach a maximum amount of flow. You also notice we've got it on a ramp, and so this is a 20-degree, we're simulating a 20-degree heel. That's a pretty large heel angle. And these are the different size vents. As we're increasing the hole size, we're covering up the old ones with butyl tape to plug up the old vents. So again, that was almost 40 seconds, 38 seconds.
The conclusion of this little experiment was that the water was not restricted by a vent that's about 20% of the area of the transfer pipe. Anything less than that, and the water took longer to transfer.
All right, commenters, nitpick away.
I'm ready to drill some big holes in my brand new beautiful water tanks. Now it's very exciting to be installing systems like plumbing. This one in particular I'm really nervous about, and I'm really dragging my feet about it because I am drilling holes, big holes in my brand new beautiful tanks. As you'll remember, I have their 4 compartments essentially per tank. What I'm working on now is the vent system, and so what's important is that as the water can fall from one side of the boat to the high side to the low side as quickly as possible. So I'm installing pretty large vents. Even though we proved that they didn't have to be this big, I want them to be. I'm installing these, which are PVC through bulkhead or through tank fittings. I got these specifically because they are NSF approved for drinking water. These fittings are going to be touching all of our drinking water, so I want to make sure that there's no chemicals getting into our drinking water. They also don't require any sealant because they have their own gasket on them. So I have to drill 4 holes for the vents this big, just for the vents themselves per tank. I'm using hole saws. For the bottom hole, I'm actually drilling from the inside out, and I start with this one to find the pilot holes because I want to make sure that I'm far enough away from the sides of the tank. And then I actually drill the hole. This is a 1 7/8 hole saw that'll get it the rest of the way through. Yeah, we're gonna drill a few holes this afternoon and hope it goes really well.
I thought you love drilling holes in your boat.
I've been so nervous about this because I just want to make sure that I get everything in the right place, that the venting works properly. If I screw it up, it's a big screw up because then I'd have a giant hole in our water tank. Now that's the lower vent in the lower portion of the tank. It's coming out the side of the tank because you can see the top of the tank is going to be a bench, and so an ideal vent would be on the top of the tank, but we don't have the space for it. So it's on the side. On the top section of the tank, I will be able to put it on the top, so that's the next one we're gonna be doing next. So my top vent is installed here. This is the top forward section of this port side tank. So I've got like 6 more of these vent fittings to install around the boat. All right, now all of the fittings for the vents are installed into the tank. So again, there's 4 vents per tank because there's 4 compartments per tank. And the next step is to connect all the vents together per side. So there's 2 sides, 2 tanks. Connect them all together, run them back into the cockpit. I'm anticipating this will take the rest of the day today. After about 15 trips to the hardware store, I've got the ventilation plumbing done on both sides of the boat for the freshwater tanks. Again, there's 4 compartments per side, and so the vents get gradually bigger to allow more airflow through as the tanks are connected together. And so it's an inch, it starts at 1 inch, goes up to 1.5 inches, and then it moves to 2 inches as it goes back to the cockpit. So it actually vents out inside this cubby inside the cockpit. So from the quarter berth, it runs through the main bulkhead, makes a hard right turn and goes under along the deck, and then pokes out, like I said, inside that cubby. The vent fitting itself, I haven't figured out yet. I'm thinking about just putting an elbow on the end of it and putting a screen over the elbow, maybe with just a hose clamp or something. If you have any ideas of a vent that is pretty short, it can only be about 5 inches tall, that would fit on a 2-inch PVC pipe, I'm all ears. But otherwise, I think just putting a nice screen to keep bugs and stuff outside of my venting would work pretty well.
Did you say you're all ears?
I resorted to just straight PVC pipe because it's way cheaper and it's a pretty much straight run that goes all the way back to the cockpit, makes a 90-degree turn. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. The biggest concern about this, and I'm sure you all are wondering, is how I'm going to hide it. And so it's inboard about 2 inches from the hull, and that is so that I can fit lots of wire. I'll have a wire run on the outboard side of the pipe. And then I think what I'm just gonna do is take a piece of trim that will be glued up to the overhead. And obviously it'll go bulkhead to bulkhead. And I may even put a piece of headliner that covers the underside. And it'll also be a great place to put a light under there, like a log string light. It's just fit together right now. Nothing is glued or permanently in place.
This freshwater ballast system has been an insane amount of work, both building it and designing it. Way more than I ever expected it would be. You know, I won't even know if it works until the boat is in the water and sailing. I'm very excited to try it out, but I just really hope that it is worth the effort that I've put into it. It is an interesting feature of the boat, and I think it will be very, very cool. But again, like I said, we're not going to know until the boat's in the water.
Don't forget to click on the description link to get the special discount that CyberGhost VPN is granting to Duracell Project viewers. This application will protect your data while you browse and give you full access to all blocked content on the internet for only $2.03 a month. Totally risk-free, so check it out. Link in the description.